So Elson is the chair of the Friends of the Cahuenga Library. He's done so much incredible work in this community. I don't even have words for it. So please, I'm so sorry that I forgot to introduce you. But Elson's going to say a few words about what this community garden means to the community. Thank you. Elson Trinidad.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Farrell, state and local officials, friends and neighbors. Over 240 years ago, this land was inhabited by the native Tongva people. They called this area Cahuenga, meaning place of the hill. 227 years ago, the Spanish established a pueblo along a river about 4 miles from here. As for Cahuenga, the Spaniards couldn't quite pronounce it, so they called it Cahuenga. 198 years ago, this land, which was claimed by Spain, now became a part of Mexico. 176 years ago, the governor of the Mexican state of Alta California granted the land near here to the family of Corporal Jose Vicente Feliz and called it Rancho Los Feliz, where cattle was free to roam amongst its prairies and hills. 169 years ago, this land became part of the state of California, one of 34 United States of America. 150 years ago, this land was called the Cahuenga Valley. Farms growing wheat, oranges, lemons, avocados sprang up in the wide, fertile prairies. 145 years ago, this land was part of a town called Coal Grove. 132 years ago, a few miles from this land, a man named Harvey Wilcox founded a town called Hollywood. 110 years ago, this land became a housing tract called the Rose Hill Tract. The pueblo by the river grew into a city, and both Coal Grove and Hollywood were annexed into that city. They now called this area East Hollywood. A new road was built called Madison Avenue. 102 years ago, a public library opened near this land called the Cahuenga Branch Library. 40-something years ago, I arrived in East Hollywood via the maternity ward of Kaiser Hospital. I grew up near this land and borrowed books at the Cahuenga Library for study and leisure. There were no parks nearby to play at, so we neighborhood kids had to play in our front yards and on the streets. 23 years ago, inspired by volunteering at a cleanup in Echo Park, I became a community activist and organizer. I began to learn and care more about this land, which still lacked recreational park space for our youth to play in. Around 20 years ago, a fire burned down an apartment and a house on this land. It stood vacant for many, 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 many years. Around 15 years ago, the Trust for Public Land and the LA Community Garden Council began the hard work of working with the city to turn this land into a park and community garden. 8 years ago, I first attended a series of workshops at the Cahuenga Library where members of the community helped plan the layout and features of this park. And I still have one of the flyers right here. Cool. 3 years ago, I worked with the arts organization LA Commons in developing artwork for this park. We selected artist Dalila Mendez. Dalila? To work with Eddie Cortez, and local youth in designing this wonderful mural you see here today. 2 years ago, we engaged local neighbors on this land amongst the tall wild grasses to share their stories and ideas in a community engagement event filled with music, poetry, and food. And about 1 year ago, construction finally got underway. Today, this land is now called the Madison Avenue Park and Community Garden. Though established in a world of Facebooking, Instagramming, 5G broadband, and 8K Ultra HD, it is still connected in every way to its history. A land where neighborhood kids can finally play. A land where once again fruits and vegetables can be grown. Next to a century-old library named after the original name of the land, Cahuenga, Cahuenga. Speaking of which, as president of the nonprofit Friends of Cahuenga Library, and we have some of the board members here, we are proud to contribute and maintain a little free library box right here, built and designed by Josh Segura, a member of our community, as a virtual extension of the library, a way for people of all ages to use this park as a place to enjoy the wonders of reading. Tomorrow, people will call this land by many names: El Parque, El Jardín, Aigi, Banjarnots, Liwasan, Halemanan, the park, the playground, the garden. 10, 20, 30 years from now, today's kids will look back at this land with fond memories of their youth, of running in the playground, shooting hoops, or learning how to plant tomatoes for the first time. This land will become a part of their history, and this land will continue to be a part of our history.
Thank you so much, Elson. Elson, do you want to introduce the other members of the Friends of the Library?
I know we have Araceli Torres, also president of the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council over here. We have Eric Bowman. Are you here? He said he'd be here. Eric, okay. So we're here. And is Hillary St. George here? Hillary, where are you? Okay. Hope you're here. She's the senior librarian at the Cahuenga Library, and we're glad to be partners with this park, neighbors in every sense of the word.
Thank you so much, Elson. Trinidad, don't go far because we're going to cut the ribbon now. Yes. All right. And 3, 2, 1.